Welcome back to Daily Easy English Talk. Today, we're exploring one of the most haunting and mysterious stories in American history, the disappearance of the Sodder children. It happened on Christmas Eve in 1945 in the quiet town of Fayetteville, West Virginia. A house fire consumed the Sodder family home. 5 of the 10 Sodder children never came out. But here's the mystery. Their remains were never found. Were they burned to nothing? Or were they taken? Let's dive into this chilling story. Setting the scene. The Sodders were an Italian immigrant family. George and Jenny Sodder had 10 children. They were respected, hardworking, and considered prosperous. George ran a trucking business. The family lived in a 2-story wooden house near town. Life wasn't always easy, but they were doing well, and then came December 24th, 1945. Christmas Eve should have been joyful. The Sodder children were excited for presents and celebrations. The older boys stayed up later, playing with toys and enjoying the holiday spirit. Jenny, the mother, reminded them not to stay up too long. Around 12:30 a.m., she heard the phone ring. The first signs of trouble. Jenny answered. A woman's voice asked for someone Jenny didn't know. She laughed strangely, and Jenny heard voices and clinking glasses in the background. It felt odd, but she didn't think much of it. Jenny went back to bed. A short while later, she heard a loud thump on the roof, then a rolling sound. Moments later, she smelled smoke. At 10 a.m., flames erupted in the house. The fire spread quickly, consuming the wooden structure. Jenny, George, and 4 of the children escaped. But 5 of the children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny Jr., and Betty, remained upstairs. The fire that changed everything. George tried desperately to save them. He smashed a window, cutting his arm. He ran to fetch his ladder, but the ladder was missing. He tried to start his trucks to drive them near the house, but strangely, both trucks refused to start. Neighbors tried to call the fire department, but no operator answered. The fire department finally arrived at 8 a.m., long after the house had turned to ash. When the ruins cooled, the search began. But here's the strange part. No bones were found, no teeth, no trace of 5 children who supposedly died in that fire. The first doubts. The Sodders were devastated, but questions grew. A house fire should leave remains, especially bones. Experts later confirmed that even in intense fires, human bones almost always survive. So where were the Sodder children? Jenny remembered the phone call, the missing ladder, the dead trucks, and the thump on the roof. Was the fire really an accident? Suspicious clues. Soon, more suspicious details emerged. George had strong political views. He openly criticized Benito Mussolini, the Italian dictator. This angered some members of the local Italian community. Threats were made against him and his family. A stranger once came to the Sodder home offering to sell fire insurance. When George refused, the man said, "Your house will go up in smoke, and your children will be destroyed." Was this just coincidence? Another stranger appeared, looking at the house's fuse box. He said, "This will cause a fire someday." But George had just had the electrical system checked, and it was fine. The sightings. After the fire, reports of the Sodder children surfaced. A woman claimed she saw the kids peering from a passing car during the fire. A waitress in a nearby town said she served breakfast to 5 children matching their description. Another woman claimed she saw the children at a tourist stop, traveling with adults who seemed hostile. Were the Sodder children kidnapped? The private investigation. The Sodders refused to accept that their children had died in the fire. They hired private investigators. They put up a billboard along Route 16 with the children's pictures, asking, "Are they still alive?" That billboard stood for decades. Tips kept coming in. One letter from Kentucky said the children were there. Another tip placed them in Florida. But no evidence was ever solid. In 1967, Jenny received a strange envelope. Inside was a photograph of a young man in his 20s. On the back it read, "Louis Sodder. I love Brother Frankie. Ill boys. A 90132 or 35. Louis had been only 9 years old in 1945. Could this be him, grown up? The resemblance was striking. But the photo's origin was never discovered. Theories. So, what happened? There are several theories. They died in the fire. Some argue that the blaze was hotter than normal, destroying everything. But many experts disagree. Bones do not burn away so completely in house fires. They were kidnapped. Perhaps someone set the fire as a distraction and took the children. Motives? Revenge against George, ransom, or human trafficking, organized crime. Some believe the Sodders crossed paths with mafia groups. The threats, the strange visitors, and the sabotage of the ladder and trucks, this theory explains them. A cover-up. Did local authorities fail or refuse to investigate properly? The fire department's late arrival, the refusal to search thoroughly, and missing evidence all suggest negligence or worse. The family's lifelong quest. George and Jenny never gave up. They traveled, followed every lead, and believed their children were alive somewhere. They kept their Christmas stockings hung every year for all 10 children. George died in 1969, Jenny in 1989. They were buried beneath a headstone with pictures of the missing children. Even after their deaths, the surviving Sodder siblings continued the search. But the mystery has never been solved. So, what really happened on that Christmas Eve in 1945? Did the Sodder children burn in the fire, leaving no trace? Or were they taken away, hidden, and perhaps forced into new lives? No one knows for sure. The story remains one of America's most haunting, unsolved mysteries. Perhaps the truth lies in ashes long gone, or perhaps someone out there still remembers the Sodder children.